Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hack4Impact Project Showcase. We're so thrilled for you all to join us for our first ever showcase. My name is Nithya Patel, and I'm the Outreach Director here at Drexel Hack4Impact.
My name is, my name is David Fontenot, and I'm the event coordinator for Hack4Impact.
Over the last few months, our teams have learned that debugging at 2 a.m. really does build character. That Git merge will test your friendships, and the phrase, just one more feature, is never true. However, our teams have also learned that technology isn't just about code. It's about people. It's about using our skills to create meaningful change for communities and nonprofits that make a difference every day. Tonight, you will see projects that have taken countless hours of collaboration, creativity, and purpose. We are so proud to share how our student developers have turned ideas into purpose. Because here at Hack4Impact, that's what it's all about. Building tech that matters.
All right, so here is the agenda for today. Welcome message first. We're already doing that, so we can cross that off. Next, sponsors and featured guests. After, a message from our dear president. Then meet the e-board, then the real meet, the projects, and then finally closing remarks. Now, we would like to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors who made this event possible. Our sponsors for our showcase are Drexel College of Computing and Informatics, otherwise known as CCI, Vanguard, College Ave, Plastic Free Delaware, and Saxby's. Now, we would not have this delicious food without them. I mean, they helped with the other stuff as well. But I mean, have you guys tried the cookies? I've had like 6 of them already. I can't get enough. Either way, I'm going off topic. My apologies. Outside this room is Timothy Kong, a Scrum lead and TLP member from Vanguard. If you're interested in connecting with members from Vanguard, Joseph is the Early Talents Program Manager and Relationships Manager with Drexel. And all of you should definitely connect with both Timothy and Joseph on LinkedIn. 3 out of our 8 executive board members have worked at Vanguard now, and we carried a large majority of their software development lifecycle from them. Everything from the way we run our Scrum meetings to the infrastructure of our applications. Thank you for your support, for helping us run this event, and continued support of the Drexel University Co-op program. Again, I'm stressing this for all students because I know a round of co-op is coming up, so please, I beg of you, this is a wonderful opportunity. Please go connect with these people. Now, that's my bad. Next, I would like to thank all the provosts and professors who have joined us today. We appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend our event. It means a lot to us. I would also like to take this time to issue a formal apology to Professor Bodie. You might not know me, but it just truly pains me to admit that I have had to skip some of your CS270 labs to help with the preparation of this event. So I really hope you can find it in your heart of hearts to forgive me. Thank you. And with that aside, next I would like to invite our faculty advisor, Dr. Tim Gorichanas, to share a few words.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Nithya. So, over the past several years, maybe the past decade, we've seen the results of the tech sector not taking human welfare and ethics seriously. We have immense convenience, we have a lot of money, we also have extraordinary levels of loneliness and polarization and all these horrible things that we're learning more and more and more about. The truth is that for the past 30 plus years, people working in technology have been, if I may say, hired guns, doing whatever's gonna pay. But this doesn't have to be the case. It's not a foregone conclusion, and we can imagine a different kind of future, and that's where Hack4Impact comes in. As David said, I'm Tim Gorichanas. I'm a faculty member in the College of Computing and Informatics. I'm so proud and excited to be the faculty advisor for this group, and I want to welcome you all to this event, to the showcase. I'm really excited for you to see what this group of amazing students has been up to for the past several months. So I just wanted to share a couple of opening remarks. So we're here at Drexel University. Drexel is the premier experiential education institution. And First and foremost, for us, a lot of us, that means co-op, right? Most of our students have this multiple co-op experiences throughout their time at Drexel. But beyond that, it also means in the classroom, you're doing hands-on, project-based learning, things that are going to give you these hands-on skills and learning experiences that are going to be useful in your life afterwards. And it also means a wealth of extracurricular activities where you can get more experiential learning. So we don't often think of these things as building our experience and building our skills. Sometimes going to class is just a drag, but I'd really encourage you students that is, to see things that way. Everything you do, you're building these skills. So Hack4Impact, this is just another one of these examples of experiential education at play. I also want to mention that Drexel is an incredibly civically involved institution. That means that we're not just here to, again, make a lot of money and make convenient things, but rather we're seeking to be a partner with the local community to do things that are good for our neighbors, to be good Philadelphians, not just that we randomly happen to be located here. And so Hack4Impact, in my opinion, leverages both of these things, experiential learning and civic engagement, both of these strengths of Drexel. It provides its members with industry-level experience and wonderful leadership, all working for the social good, and you're going to see a bunch of examples of that today. Really, really amazing work. So in a world where there's so much we can be discouraged by and worried about, especially when it comes to technology, but even beyond, I think the students in Hack4Impact, they've been personally inspiring to me. I'm just so impressed all the time. I mean, you can tell by the caliber of this event that they've put together. Honestly, I do very little, so it's just been really fun. They're serious, they're dedicated, extremely effective. At the same time, they know how to have fun. It's a really wonderful group. So I again, thank you for being here. I hope you're inspired by what you see today. I hope it makes you want to get involved. And even if you don't want to get involved with Hack4Impact per se, I hope it inspires you to look at your talents, your abilities, and see what can you do to help each other out. So, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Goranchanas, again, for your kind words. We would not be here without you, so thank you again. Next, I'd like to invite the Vice Provost for University and Community Partnerships, Young Moo Kim, who has been a huge help to the organization, to give a few words. So we can welcome him, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First off, I want to just, echo everything Tim just said, because I agree absolutely 100% with that, and even more. Also, I want to congratulate Tim, because not only does he advise this amazing group, but he's also an ultra marathoner, right? And he runs 100 miles at a time, and I can't even conceive of that. So, but you have a great advisor, and you picked a fantastic faculty representative to sponsor your work. So I am Vice Provost of University and Community Partnerships here at Drexel. I'm also a professor of electrical and computer engineering. But my office, University Community Partnerships, or UCP as we call it, oversees Drexel's commitment to civic engagement. And echoing a theme, again, that Professor Goranchanas just said, right, our mantra in my office of UCP is that civic engagement is experiential learning. And this showcase is a fantastic example of just that. You see, at Drexel, civic engagement is much more than traditional service or volunteerism. We tackle the very real challenges that are faced by others in our communities, in our neighborhoods. In short, we make better things and we make things better. This event is a celebration of how great civically engaged technology can make a whole lot of things possible. So I'm going to congratulate Hack4Impact on this showcase and their incredibly impactful projects that you're going to hear about shortly. But I want to riff just a little bit on the broader community here at Drexel as well, because Drexel has this incredibly proud history and tradition of innovation, particularly technological innovation. And maybe that's even what brought many of you here to attend Drexel. Just in case you didn't know, we were the first university to require all students to have a personal computer. Not just any PC, it was the Mac. It was the original Mac in 1984. We're part of Apple's history, right? We were the first university to have campus-wide Wi-Fi. We were one of the first to have fully online education programs, which turned out to be incredibly prescient, right? So we have this great tradition, but what I love about Hack4Impact and many of our other student organizations is they take that spirit of innovation and apply it towards solving real-world problems in our communities and particularly close to home. Now, many of you probably know that Drexel is an R1, a Research 1 institution, right? But we're also a national leader in civic engagement. In fact, we're one of only 16 private universities that have a Carnegie classification, both as Research 1 and Community Engaged. And you probably haven't heard of the other schools. There are schools like Brown or Cornell or Duke, schools nobody's ever heard of. No, so we're in pretty special company, that intersection of research, technology, and civic engagement. It's a really important intersection because most problems are not solved by tech alone, right? In fact, the digital divide is probably not what you think it is, right? Most people think it's about devices and access. And if you had told me as a grad student in the year 2000, 25 years ago, hey, 25 years from now, you're gonna be living in a future where 95% of adults have a pocket supercomputer that's always connected to broadband internet, I would have said that sounds like a fantastic future. The digital divide has been solved, right? Of course, it is wider than ever, right? And that's because to close the divide, right, it's not just technical knowledge. Yes, we need technical knowledge. We need software, we need hardware, we need services, but we also need human skills. We need engagement, we need empathy, we need listening, and we need learning. Just here in this neighborhood, the neighborhood surrounding Drexel, right? The neighborhoods of Mantua and West Powelton and Overbrook, and if you go beyond, right? Drexel is committed, right, to fundamentally change some outcomes in those neighborhoods closest to us. We call it the Promise Zone, right? We actually got a federal designation because these neighborhoods face challenges due to persistent poverty and lower education attainment, right? And the good news there is that there has been a lot of change, right? That the biggest gap in our public schools is not during class time. It is not classroom academic achievement. It is now enrichment and OST, out of school time, after school programs, summer programs. I'm sure many of you benefited from such programs, right, in high school. Well, here in West Philadelphia, there just aren't that many. So if only there was some way for Drexel students to get involved with after-school enrichment programming in local middle schools. Oh wait, there is! We have a great program here called Lindy Scholars. Lindy Scholars that actually sponsors our Drexel student organizations to do exactly that. Those enrichment activities, programs of the organization's specialty, their interests, or whether it's robotics, or coding, or entrepreneurship, or sports business. We've done all those clubs and many, many more. We actually pay those organizations to do that. If you have any questions about that, by the way, program manager Maggie Cohen is right back there by the exit sign. And of course, you can ask me. But what I'm particularly pleased to announce is that not only do we do that kind of work in education and outreach, but we are building pathways beyond, right, education and after-school enrichment. In fact, we're going to pilot a project next term with Hack4Impact right here in the community to build things that are going to really help our neighbors and our local community partners. So together, we can do this, right? We can make better things and make things better. So I challenge all of you, our students, our faculty, right? I challenge you to get more involved with organizations in the community and with our Office of University and Community Partnerships. If you need ideas, just come find me. Just come talk to me. So, congratulations to Hack4Impact. I know that this is just the beginning. I can't wait to see how these efforts grow throughout this year and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Provost Kim. Last but not least, I'd like to hand it over to our glorious president who so valiantly raised this club back from the dead with his own two hands, Shams Abrar, to talk about Hack4Impact Drexel. I didn't write this, by the way. I'm just reading what's on here. Don't shoot the messenger.
That was not on the script. I don't know what he's on about. But welcome everyone for coming to this event. It's a lot of great turnout here. So, what is this event for? What is Hack4Impact? Hack4Impact is a student-run organization. We're a nationally recognized nonprofit where we partner with other nonprofits and we build them softwares that they need. Hack4Impact Drexel, we are students who believe technology should make a difference. Our mission is to partner with nonprofits that don't have access to the technical resources they need and turn their brilliant ideas into something meaningful and a working solution. When I first joined Hack4Impact, it was not as active as it is now. However, with the effort of such an incredible team, we were able to build it into what it is now. We started small. We didn't know what was going on, but we rebuilt it into more of an active club where we have more than 30 active developers and designers. We worked on projects that help with sustainability and education to community empowerment and healthcare accesses. Over the past 6 months, we built platforms that help local composting sites collect information about their volunteers, to support an organization that helps families affected by incarceration. Now, we're also collaborating on a senior design project. Each project taught us something new, not only about tech, rather also about empathy, communication. We built many projects so far, along with making a lot of friends. And it wasn't only about the technology behind it, it was also about meeting a lot of new people, cracking jokes during meetings, and building what was necessary. A lot of us came with experience, others didn't. But everyone who came here had one idea behind, to help nonprofits build what they need and with the mission behind it. Every project started here because with simple ideas. However, it got turned into meaningful solution because people here cared about what they were building. This event here would not be possible without the tireless effort of the executive board. The entire executive board has put in a lot of time and effort into this. Through their tireless effort, we were able to get this event all together, run a lot of these projects, and get this along. So first of all, the executive board, hi, I'm Shams. I'm currently a junior studying computer science. Next, as I'm speaking out the names of executive boards, please stand up. Chibuke Ume, who's currently the vice president. Nitya Patel, who's the outreach director. Brandon Gorski, who's the executive advisor and the previous president of Hack4Impact. David Fontenot, you guys have already met. He's the event coordinator. Ria Fatke, the community director. Ryan Ling, the engineering chair. Mahidar Nuthanapati, the treasurer. Along with Lola Sapayeva, who's the design director. Unfortunately, she cannot make it to this event as she's in Hong Kong doing her study abroad. But I would appreciate a big round of applause for the e-board here who has worked long. Now I'll hand the mic back to Nitya to continue with the project showcase.
Thank you, Shams, and I would like to second David by saying Shams is the best president we've ever had, and I was told to say this by Shams, so yeah. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, I'd like to introduce our 4 projects that we have done. The Dream School Inc., Delaware Community Composting Initiative, Veterans Rebuilding Life, and Indomitable Families Affected by Incarceration. Our first project, the Dream School Inc., is a nonprofit helping charter schools access affordable, high-quality facilities that support student success and community transformation. I'd like to hand it to Shams, the tech lead for this project.
Well, I'm back again. So, Dream School Inc. is our first project. We were rebuilding Hack4Impact from ground up at that moment, back in spring of 2025. The mission for this project was to build a website for Dream School, which builds other charter schools around Philadelphia area and greater Pennsylvania. The mission was simple: to make an affordable and sustainable website that conveys their information accurately. Now, a quick question. Who here has looked into a nonprofit's website, didn't know what they were trying to do or how to contact them? Raise your hands up. Yes. This was the exact problem that we were trying to solve here. So, firstly, what we wanted to do was that the audience, which are educators and community leaders, to know the information about what this nonprofit is all about. First, we had to establish credibility. So, this website should convey enough information in order for other schools, other charter schools, to partner with them and know that they will deliver on their promises. Secondly, we had to make sure we communicate what are their services. And third, making sure that contacting this nonprofit is easy to do. So back then we didn't have as many developers and designers, so we wanted to make sure we are able to deliver it on time right before summer starts. Thanks to my team with Chibuke Ume, Sam, Ohona, and Lola Sapaiva, we were able to deliver this project on time by summer. So the deliverables included information architecture, content layout, and the brand alignment with a new logo. We had to make sure that faculty design, educational environment, and real estate development must be presented in a well-structured manner, as these are the core services provided by Dream School. Our success targets were a clean, professional-looking website, along with trust and clarity that this Dream School has done work in the past with other charter schools. We went with a very simple Next.js tech stack, along with Tailwind as the CSS. My role as the project manager was to make sure that everything was getting done on time, the CI/CD pipeline and all of the deployment was getting on time, along with conducting weekly meetings with the developers and designers. I came from a background of mostly hackathons, so I was only doing short projects. However, this is the first long-term project where I had to communicate with non-technical nonprofits. And this was the hardest challenge for us, to understand their requirements, doing the design and translating that as in code. We went through multiple client revisions through a timeline of 3 months. And then we ended up deploying it in Vercel for previews. Client reviews were done on real time, along with not just screenshots, rather they were reviewing every step we were doing, and then we were consistently doing our Scrum reviews. At the end, the outcomes that we were able to do, we launched a clean, credible, nonprofit site with a reusable template that we can leverage going forward, working with other nonprofits. Along with that, we were able to document the end-to-end process, so with project delivery and handoff, there wasn't any friction going forward. Communicating to the nonprofit how long can we do the service and maintenance. These were some of the screenshots from the deployed website. As you can see, we have the contact information along with their previous work with other charter schools, along with what is their mission and what they are specialized in. Now, I'll hand over the mic to Chibuke Ume, who was the other tech lead in this project.
Hello everyone, my name is Chibuke Ume. That's a bit hard to pronounce, so you can just call me Chi. I'm a third year studying computer science, and some of my interests are just playing games, playing basketball, and the likes. So in this project, my main roles were tech lead, front-end developer, and DevOps management. In this project, my main role involved working with Shams to meet client needs and translate the designs provided by our design team into the website using Next.js and Tailwind CSS, and also involved in deployment of the project through all stages of development, which included the development stage and the production stage. Through the course of this project, I learned a lot about communicating, working with the team, meeting client needs, since this was my first time doing something of that caliber, and also just working with others and communicating better. Now I would like to hand off to Lola and Sam, who were in the design team, to talk about the process they took for managing the designs.
Hello everybody! Thank you for taking time out of your day to attend the showcase today. I hope you have been enjoying it so far. I would like to take time to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Lola Sapaiva. I am the design director of Hack4Impact, and currently I am on study abroad at HKU. I will be back in December, but for now you get to see me on this beautiful screen, and I would like to introduce some of the projects that I have contributed in. One of the first projects that I contributed in was a website that we created for the nonprofit called Dream Schools. I was able to design the website on Figma and create a mock-up for it. And Sam, who is my designer, helped me with the logos. She was able to talk to Dr. Adam, who's part of the nonprofit, to ask about what his preferences were, what kind of colors he wanted to use, and kind of establish the overall idea. I'm sure Sam is going to talk about that later. And Hona was able to jump on to make the mock-up with me of how the website would look like, and had a smooth kind of handoff with the developers where they were able to make the website through our design. And I had multiple meetings with the developers to kind of establish what needed to be where and how the user was going to access different pages, and overall back and forth with Dr. Adam to see what to fix. And he also sent us like examples of different websites he liked, so we were able to design something that looked good to their services and also represented us. So I'm actually a software engineering major, and I primarily focus on coding, and I like front-end development the most, so I've always been tapped into the creative field of design. But Dream Schools gave me the opportunity to fully make a website through Figma and have the experience to hand it off to developers and experience the designer side rather than the developer side. So it grew my insight as to how the two function and how the two have come together, because I'm much more technical in my major, but technical in a way of development, but I was able to now tap into more of the creative side and develop more of the designer skills.
Now we'd like to pass it over to Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam Walvin, and I'm a product design major. I worked on the Dream Schools project, and I was the graphic designer for it. So I created the logo, set branding guidelines, and I created letterheads for the company. I had never done client work before this project, so this was a really valuable lesson in learning how to create a design process around a client and speak to them about what they want for their brand and what they want in the logo. So this is some of the work I did. So I started by researching the company and reading the brief they gave me about their values and what they wanted for a logo. So for the logo is that triangle looking shape. I kind of took the idea of a paper airplane and turned it geometric. So I took the idea of something that I associated with schools, and I tried to make it more geometric just because I think geometric logos are like easy to like spot at any scale, and being able to recognize a logo easily on any like screen or product is a really important part. So yeah, basically I just learned a lot more about creating stuff for a client. I've never really done work like this before. I learned a lot more about layouts from this project, and I hope to learn even more about that and get into more UX work. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, team, for your hard work on this project. Next, I would like to introduce the Delaware Community Composting Initiative, which is a very special project because I'm in it. Oh, that is my fault. Now, Delaware Community Composting Initiative is part of Plastic Free Delaware, where they eliminate the scourge of plastic pollution and build a culture of zero waste in Delaware through educational programs, awareness building, outreach, and policy initiatives. I would like to hand it over to Elisa, the program director for DCCI and our point of contact.
Hello, my name is Elisa King, and I am the Compost Program Director for Plastic Free Delaware, and I manage the Delaware Community Composting Initiative. Our mission is to foster collaboration and provide education in the reduction of food waste going to Delaware landfills. In a typical day, we are doing a number of things. We may be in schools doing a food waste audit and helping them come up with a compost program. We may be going to events and supplying information to the community on how to compost and how to reduce their food waste. And we will be at our community composting site where we have community members come out and bring their food scraps and participate in the composting process. So the problem that Hack4Impact has been so awesome with helping us with was data collection. So in order for us to have accurate information about what our impact is, we really need to collect data, and we have our volunteer members helping by providing that data. But we needed an outlet that was going to collect that data and then accurately calculate it for us, because we had been doing it pretty much manually. And Hack4Impact has been amazing, and what they did was create an app that we can then allow our volunteer members to use for the measuring of compost food scraps and other materials, so that we can then provide reports to the Delaware Department of Natural Resources, who we are permitted through. So we'd like to say thank you to Hack4Impact for this amazing opportunity to work with you, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elisa. And now I'd like to call on Jose to come up, our project manager for this project.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Mena. I want to give a huge thanks to Elisa first off for giving us this opportunity to grow as developers. I'm currently a third year here at Drexel studying exercise science as my major, but I do study computer science as my minor. And I served as the project manager for the Hack4Impact and DCCI collaboration. Some of my interests are playing video games, as you can see right here, playing GameCube with my nephew, my Pomeranian dog. I love cooking Mexican cuisine. Chilaquiles is really nice. And I love rock climbing, even though it's a little scary, but it works. So now that you know a little bit about me, I want to introduce you to the rest of my team. And first up we have is Ria Fudkit.
Hey, so hi everyone, my name is Ria, and I'm a third year data science major here at Drexel. I'm currently on co-op at Independence Blue Cross as a risk analyst. Shout out to my team for being here. I'm really glad you could make it. But beyond that, I am the tech lead of the DCCI data collection project. And in terms of my personal interests, I really like to read, sing, play some video games, if you know, Stardew Valley up there. And these are two of my favorite books, so if anyone out here knows them and has some book recommendations, please send them my way. Handing it off to David.
Hello, my name is David Fontenot. I'm a third year out of 4 here at Drexel. I'm a computer science major. I was the design lead for the DCCI project. Some of my interests are comics and movies. Right there is Magnolia, a movie I think everyone should watch once. And in that photo, I'm doing a high five in midair after seeing Cocaine Bear, because that was a really cool thing to do. I'd like to hand off to Chloe now.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a third-year student studying UX at Drexel. My role at Hack4Impact is their UX designer for this project specifically. I was a desktop UX designer. Outside of Hack4Impact, one of my most recent interests I've been picking up is playing pool. Even though I'm not really good at it yet, I'll be better. But I'd like to pass it back to Jose.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a quick little overview of how we approached this project. We didn't just jump into development. We actually talked with Elisa and her team to understand their needs, figuring out what worked with the old forms, for example, like the old Google Forms, where the volunteer can just scan a QR code and get the forms right there. So we just needed to build them a website that can still utilize those same features, but just make it a whole lot better. And after that, after figuring out all the needs, you focused on building two main components, a user form and a staff dashboard. We built this using Next.js as our web framework and Supabase as our database backend. With my team, I utilized an agile methodology throughout the whole process. I held stand-up meetings with them to check in on our progress, and bi-weekly meetings with Lisa and her team to make sure we were on the right track and receive any feedback if they wanted just one more feature, and that was for me. This whole project overall took a deliverance from about 3 to 4 months, start to finish. And now I'm gonna hand it over to David for him to walk you through how we changed the Google form into something much better.
So yeah, as you can see here, this was the original user form that would pop up after volunteers would scan the QR codes at composting sites. Now, first things first is that this is not user-friendly on mobile, and especially, you're working 2 hours in these outdoor locations dealing with compost, and now you have to deal with this layout where it requires a lot of scrolling and difficult to click areas. It's not good. I'm not a fan of it. Another huge problem was that it had no guidance, no proper guidance. And what I mean by that, oh, sorry, I just heard an echo. What I mean by that is that basically users could get confused about what section they need to enter data in, and they could enter incorrect data. For example, if we're looking for numbers and they enter characters, this would make the entire data table forfeit and would just make this, there'd be no point. So that definitely needs to change. Me personally also, I just didn't like how plain it looked and it had no connection to the brand. So that's why I thought it needed changing. Now, this is the bulk of what I worked on, was making the blueprint for the new improved user form. Now, first things first, you can notice that this is way more app-like. It's got step-by-step navigation. One thing that was really important to me was that volunteers come in all different types of ages, shapes, and sizes. And so we needed to build something that you could easily pick up and understand. And so that's why I chose to have these bright green buttons. There's a back button. And then going back to guidance, if you look in the middle section, it says adding material to brown bins. So this would show users what exactly they selected, so there's no room for confusion. And then also, you don't see it here, but we locked, you'd only be able to enter numbers if we're looking for numbers. So solve that issue. And then, of course, connect it to our database, which is one of the biggest things. For this, I designed it in Figma originally, and then I developed it with React. The reason why I chose React is because it helped with smoother transitions, more app-friendly, and then also it's just really integral to web development. I didn't know much about it beforehand, and so I thought that was just a really interesting thing to know. Now, I'd like to pass it back to Ria. She's going to talk about how she improved upon it.
Thank you, David. Okay, so I collaborated with David on the backend form flow, making sure that the new design best met our stakeholders' needs. But beyond that, going into this project, I knew that I wanted to gain some front-end experience, so I looked into color theory and ultimately decided on this earthy color palette for the new DCCI form. It matches their purpose of composting, it's a bit easier on the eyes, and ultimately made our stakeholders happy. In terms of what I learned, working on this project really pushed me outside of a classroom mindset. I had to throw myself into learning HTML and CSS right away, kind of from scratch, which was both very confusing and exciting and overwhelming. Unlike school, there isn't a set of instructions or rules or a lecture that you can follow when working on such a dynamic coding project. We just kind of went right into it, and that meant a lot of trial and error. I had to learn to be patient because sometimes my code wouldn't work for hours or days or even weeks, but I also got so much better at trying new solutions even when I didn't quite understand them just yet. And I would say that that ended up being the best learning experience. All right, so moving into the data collection portion of this, the old Google form that DCCI was using linked up to this really large and confusing spreadsheet. So there were about 40 columns and many rows full of almost entirely null values. And so this was because the Google form would have these questions or tasks on them that would each link up to one column each. But not every volunteer filling out the form was going to be doing every task. So what I did instead was I created a query, I designed a schema based on the previous spreadsheet where I grouped together similar columns into tables, and then I grouped together each variable with their associated data types. This schema, which then translated into a database, made it much easier to manage and understand our data. Then I chose Supabase because it offers features like authentication and free email reporting, which is something that we needed. And as I mentioned earlier, when working with nonprofits, one of the most important things to us is to make sure that their new solution is as cost-effective as possible. So we chose Supabase because it was free and it ended up being the best choice for this.
All right, thank you. So, thanks to David and Ria's work, now we had a splendid user form and a solid database design. But now we were on to the staff dashboard. We needed a way for staff to actually be able to manage all the data that gets sent through. And this is where Supabase came clutch for me. Oh, very good. I'm gonna be a little personal right now. I'm gonna tell a little personal story. I used to be a computer science major, and Zach can tell you right here. You'll meet Zachary Oldweiler soon, but during CI labs for a whole time, I was trying to work with MongoDB. If you ever heard about it, it's the database backend, and oh boy, I could not understand what was going on there. I couldn't get authentication features to work, and we just had to like hash in a password, and we called it a day. But then Shams, our glorious president, came up to me and told me, hey, I know you've been wanting to learn how to do databases, learn how to use them. There's this thing called Supabase. And I gave it a shot, and I saw, whoa. It was so much beginner friendly. It had a tons of documentations to help us boot. And suddenly, this user authentication feature, it just seemed so much more possible. I was like, whoa, I can't believe I can do this now. And now staff members can log in with a username, an email and the password. But before I show you the staff dashboard, I would like to give it off to Chloe, who designed our dashboard.
So like I said earlier, I am a UX designer for Hack4Impact. This project specifically, I was focusing on desktop wireframe and prototyping. This is something that I've done for the first time in terms of an administrative perspective. I've never really designed a dashboard before, so before I started designing, I wanted to do a lot of research beforehand. So a lot of my first prototypes were a little wonky, for lack of a better word. But as soon as I started designing a bit more, I got a hang of it, and I ended up making a few reiterations of the same product. I looked at the Google form that they used originally and the sheets that it spit out to understand what the DCCI wanted as an admin on a staff dashboard. So something big that I learned was not only how to design for administrative dashboards, also just researching as much as I could. Even though I couldn't get in contact with the people themselves, I was able to gather enough information to be able to produce some of the stuff that you see behind me. And I'd pass it back.
I want to give a huge thanks to Chloe. She really, what she said about that was really true. It was a little hectic on our end too, but she did really great with the designs, and we used them as a great foundation to build this dashboard. So I want to talk to you guys about one of my proudest features in this dashboard, and that's the logs page in it. Here, staff members can switch between different tables pertaining to whatever task types the DCCI is collecting, whether it be adding material, any taking of the finished compost, or any moving of the bins. And they can also edit or delete any entries made by a volunteer if they made a mistake in there, or they need to fix a little data entry. And they can also resolve any issues and contaminations for their database to make sure that their sites are, in good conditions. There's no big issues happening around. And they can also filter the submissions from user info, task type, date, and site.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, our partners were manually calculating a lot of their statistics from the spreadsheet. And even with formulas, they would still have to go back in and double check that these values were correct. So what I did is I wrote a query just to generate those key metrics instantly. And then when working on the project, I added a button to the staff dashboard, which allows staff to enter the year that they want their report for, to then get the report. And all reports would get saved under the PDF documents section for safekeeping if they ever wanted to look back at it. And they could also upload any other documents they wanted in the upload PDF section, which would then get saved for safekeeping.
So one last section I want to highlight is the settings page. Here, staff members can send access to staff members can send new members staff dashboard access, and they can manage the users who receive email alerts. And those email alerts happen whenever a volunteer submits a issue or contamination. And what the cool little thing about those email alerts is they have a little description of what the issue was and a direct link to the dashboard so they can just jump right in and address the issue. But finally, DCCI is a growing organization. They are expanding to newer sites, different locations, and we gave them the ability to add and manage those working sites so they can continue to use them in the forums and be able to manage across different locations. And now I'm gonna pass it off to Ria.
All right, so ultimately, our partners received a new and improved form submission site, database, and staff dashboard. We are currently in a 1-month maintenance term, but beyond that, we are so happy that we were able to contribute to the DCCI initiative, and we wish them the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose and team. Your hard work has truly, truly paid off. And next, I'd like to introduce Veterans Rebuilding Life, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting victims of war and humanitarian crisis by addressing underserved needs. I'd like to hand it to Damien, the project lead for this project.
Hi, my name is Dania December, and I am the Program Director for Veterans Rebuilding Life. We're a 501c3 nonprofit in Astoria, Queens, New York, and we help veterans by preventing veteran suicide. And we do this through connecting veterans with their mental health resources, their physical health resources, getting them benefits for enrollment in the VA, and helping them rebuild their lives socially, economically, and spiritually. Very excited about this project, which will be very helpful to us because we are an all-volunteer team. And one of the biggest time-consuming aspects of our work is explaining benefits and eligibility for benefits. So having a process where a veteran could self-help to determine eligibility will save all of our volunteers time so that we can focus on the highest need cases. It'll also empower veterans. One of the biggest struggles in this space is that veterans are often treated as if they don't have agency. And I think by allowing veterans and their family members a simple self-help tool to identify their eligibility and help them fill out forms, it empowers veterans to not necessarily have to wait on systems that are overwhelmed or slow, and they can begin a lot of these processes themselves. So we're really looking forward to this project and super grateful for all of the work the team is doing, and we cannot wait to be able to have more of our time to focus on the highest urgency needs and also specialize our time on getting more veterans service connected and more veterans assisted so that ultimately they can rebuild their lives and help also rebuild the lives of their community. Thank you so much.
Well, here's Ryan Ling.
Thank you for the introduction, David. It was pleasant. Hi, everyone. So glad to have everyone out here tonight. My name is Ryan Ling, and I am a current senior at Drexel, majoring in computer science and minoring in finance and data science. Some of my interests include lifting, video games, and I love reading. But with that aside, I've had the pleasure of going through Drexel's co-op experience and doing 3 co-ops during my current 4 years here now at the university. And it's made the world of a difference for my career and how I apply myself in different facets of my life. I've had the pleasure of taking on software engineering roles at Comcast, Vanguard, and Susquehanna, and so it shaped a great majority of my experience. And so to reference what Damia was talking about, we've had the pleasure of collaborating with VRL to create a claims and benefits filing system to help veterans file claims on their own. As she mentioned, currently they help them manually to explain the process and then show them how to use the government site to file for claims. And so in talks with her, through talks with her and Hack4Impact and CCI, we identified a need where we could create a website that will explain the claims process as well as have an integrated AI chatbot for 24/7 support to help someone manage that process. And I stress enough that while talking, the mission here is clear: to make this site as accessible and user-friendly as possible for an age demographic that might not understand it as well. And obviously the most important thing, to empower those to file claims on their own. And so we're super stoked to be able to take on this project. As well as I'd like to shout out that this is an opportunity of the first of its kind. Hack4Impact is partnering with Drexel CCI to sponsor a senior project for a group. And so me and my team as seniors will be conducting this project as our senior project and using it as credit to graduate in our degrees. And so I'd like to just say a thank you to Professor Vopalos as well as Professor Salvage for working with us and allowing us to set this up for our senior design track. But yeah, next slide, David. I will be acting as team lead for the project. And it sounds like a fancy title, but simply I'm just going to be making sure that the team's focus is on the mission that we set beforehand, and then helping to organize tasks as well as my team on what we should do in terms of the planning phase, implementation phase, and the testing phase. But with that out of the way, I'd love to introduce the rest of the team, starting with Mahi.
Hi, my name is Mahi Nuthampati. I'm the current treasurer of Hack4Impact, as well as a project manager on one of the projects that's introduced later on during the showcase. I'm a senior as well. I've done 2 co-ops now, one at the retail credit M&A team at JPMorgan Chase, as well as an application developer at Vanguard. So yeah, a lot of financial experience. And in my free time, I enjoy cooking and reading fiction books. A large majority of my task in this project will come in the form of building out the infrastructure for this project. We have extensive use of LLMs in this project, as well as hosting a website and whatever else. So we plan on using AWS at the moment to build out this project. And my entire goal will be to make sure that we are building a persistent and reliable system that is maintainable and easy to access for however long they choose to use this tool. And with that, I forget who's after me. Brendan.
Hello everybody, thank you for being here today. As you can see, my name is Brandon Gorski. I'm currently the Executive Advisor for Hack4Impact, and I am a senior working on the Senior Design Project. I am a computer engineering and computer science dual degree student, and working on this project, I'll be serving more as a software developer role, building out the main logic and architecturing the application for VRL. I need to talk about my fun parts. Some of my interests include just going around to food spots, exploring Philadelphia. Additionally, if karaoke's ever involved, I'm always down for karaoke. And after the summer, working at Apple in San Diego, I picked up surfing a little bit, but people will disagree with that. As far as my project involvement goes, I'll be working, as I said, as a software developer, building out that main logic and the engine. And what that kind of means is more so taking in the resources that people at VRL would use to kind of support these veterans and create that eligibility engine that would kind of evaluate these veterans for them. And additionally, just building out the applications front end. With that, I'm really looking forward to getting to more of an architectural role, as something I did a lot at Vanguard. It aligns really well with this project. And working with Hack4Impact, I know it's going to be an impactful senior project, so I'm very excited about that. And I will pass it on to, how much? Rocky.
Hello, my name is Rocky. I am a senior UX ID major here at Drexel. I'm fairly new to Hack4Impact. I joined this term to be a part of the senior design project. But going forward, I plan to do a lot of UX and UI design and research. And just some of my interests, I like watching sports. I can't have a name like Rocky and not be a diehard Phillies fan. I also like collecting vinyl records. And I'm sure a lot of us know how straining it can be staring at computers all the time, so I like to get outside and visit the national parks. So, like I said before, I am going to be a project developer, and essentially a big part of my role is going to be conducting user research, so doing interviews, surveys, competitive analysis, to really get an idea of what some of the main issues are with this process, and seeing what are some of the biggest struggles that veterans have, and what are some ways that we can address them. Really, my biggest goal is to get this project in the hands of as many veterans as possible, really going out to some local communities and getting this in touch with real veterans or families of veterans, former veterans, anyone whose opinion will be super valuable to the overall design of the project. And over the course of the next 9 months, I plan on doing all this research, design, prototyping, and then more surveying to validate everything that we're doing. And with that, whoever's next. Perfect.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Nick Nicarella. I'm a senior computer science major here at Drexel, and I'll be working with VRL along with the rest of the team. So for a little bit about me, I co-opted Susquehanna. I worked on their risk and profit and loss software. And my general interests, I say tech because there are a few things. I tried getting into PC building, and I'm currently doing some fun operating systems research with Professor Stewart. Besides that, I like music and also golf. So for the project, obviously since we're doing a chatbot portion, I'm going to be doing the LLM integration. I had some experience with that in the past, and I'm looking forward to applying that. And I'm also going to be the project planner. So that's all. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it off to Kartik.
Hi guys, my name is Kartik Odan. I'm majoring in computer science and a minor in astrophysics. Outside my academics, I love listening to music and do some enterprise networking in my free time. So my contribution in the VRL will be mainly maintaining and developing REST APIs so we can have a smooth communication between backend and front-end services. I will do this via implementing CRUD and HTTP operations. Moreover, I will also be implementing security infrastructure via JWT authentication so we can have data integrity. In the end, my work at the VRL will ensure us to have a scalable and fast-paced infrastructure. Thank you. I would like to pass it to Nithya.
Great. Hello, I'm back up here again. So our last team member is Noelle He. Unfortunately, she had a last minute sickness and could not make the event, and so I'll be doing the introduction on her behalf. Noelle is a current senior, and she is a data science major with a computer science and user experience minor. She was actually originally in nursing and was on that track, but however, at her first co-op, she discovered the amount of data in the healthcare world and industry, and she became incredibly interested in how that data was managed and utilized for the benefit of the physical workplace as well as in their own systems. And so in her third year, she made the switch to a data science major, and now she's currently working with us on the senior project. In addition, some of her interests lie in creativity and creating things, so I believe they're up there with crocheting and making personal websites. But as for her responsibilities, she'll be working with the requirements engineering process and leading that. And so she'll be helping out with translating the needs of our stakeholder and translating them into technical asks and goals that our project team can work towards in order to make sure that we achieve our mission. And so yeah, with that, that is the VRL team. And we look forward to this collaboration between Hack4Impact, CCI, and VRL. Thank you.
Thank you, team, and I wish all the best for your senior project. Last but not least, we have our largest project to date. Indomitable Families Affected by Incarceration is a nonprofit that empowers families and individuals affected by incarceration by providing mental health services and access to daily living resources. I'd like to hand it to Dr. DeBerry to share some words about the team. Jesus.
Good day, I am Dr. Crystal DeBerry, founder of Indomitable Families Affected by Incarceration, located in Memphis, Tennessee, established in 2014. When we first connected with the team from Hack4Impact, we were struck not only by their technical brilliance, but by their genuine commitment to service. These are a team of students who dedicate their valuable time, energy, and cutting-edge skills to organizations like ours, not for credit and certainly not for pay, but purely for the sake of making a difference. The value of this partnership goes far beyond the technology itself. It wasn't just about coding. It is a truly, deeply collaborative professional endeavor. They took the time to truly understand the nuance of our mission, the complexity of our client needs, and the frustrations of our staff. They acted as true partners and acted as true partners, translating our messy real-world problems into elegant digital solutions. And in just a few months, they will be delivering the impossible, what would seem like the impossible to us, but will be delivering the iFam Connect app. What is the real impact of this app? I don't think the Hack4Impact team truly knows. But it is not measured in lines of code. It is measured in human potential unleashed. For example, we will be gaining time, one of our most precious resources as an organization. The app they are building will automate our entire membership process, encouraging our members to engage in services and earn rewards needed for daily survival, for their participation. We service those impacted by incarceration. And so when they engage in our program and our services, they in turn will be able to redeem points earned for things needed for daily survival. What now takes about 15 hours a week of staff time to manage manually will now mean our staff will save about 600 hours annually for us to focus on community engagement activities, program development, and fundraising. Secondly, this app is eliminating human error. Our clients will use a streamlined, custom interface that will be accessible on any device. This will reduce the time it takes for a client to move from initial contact to active participation in our program by 30%. And this is also setting them up for success after re-entry. In our world, that speed translates directly into faster access to critical resources and support, again, to help them as they re-enter society from jail and or prison. Third, we are gaining true scalability. This infrastructure, the infrastructure that Hack4Impact is building for IFAM, means that when we grow, our systems can effortlessly grow with us. We are no longer limited by the efficiency of a single spreadsheet, Google Docs, or the hours of a single staff member or a team of members. This pro bono tool is giving us the capacity, or will give us the capacity, to serve 25% more clients next year without needing to hire additional administrative staff. To put this in financial terms, the market value of the application that Hack4Impact is delivering to us easily could have cost us anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. But because they are giving us the IFAM Connect for free, every cent that would have cost us that would have gone into development costs can now go directly into our program. So the Hack4Impact is also helping us keep our services and programming free. This gift is not just a donation of code, it is a force multiplier for our mission. It allows us to be smarter, faster, and more effective for the people who need us most. So to the Hack4Impact team, thank you. You didn't just build us an application. You built us a legacy of efficiency and capacity. You gave our nonprofit a future where technology is not a luxury, but a seamless tool for service. You have fundamentally changed the trajectory of our organization, and for that we are eternally grateful. Thank you from the IFAM Board of Directors, staff, and the members we serve. Thank you for helping us show our members there can be a happily ever after bars. I'm signing off now, Dr. DeBerry. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. DeBerry. I'd now like to pass it off to the IFAM project manager, Mahi.
Once again, my name is Mahi Mithrapati. Dr. DeBerry was unable to make it today. She's located in Memphis, Tennessee, so it's a little far of a drive. But that being said, I have truly appreciated working with her for the last 5 to 6 months. She's been so supportive of our team here, and she's actually going to be coming soon to visit our entire team. But yeah, when this project was first introduced to me, Shams and Lilo kind of brought it to me, and it was presented right before the start of summer quarter. And I had been on eBoard up until that point for about 4 weeks. So, I'm still getting the reins of things and trying to understand. And I had this very initial sense of fear. This is an enterprise level application that we're building out, and the team that we had at the moment, which was just eBoard at the time, was not sufficient to build something of this scale. So this project was initially presented to Hack4Impact Cornell, and they actually turned it down because of how large it was. And Hack4Impact Nationals was kind of shopping around as to who else can take it on. And us being a new club, and us being so gung-ho about it, we choose to take it on. And this project is actually sponsored by Cornell Incubator. So essentially, we were asked to create a mobile app which connected therapists and incarcerated families together in the hopes to lessen reincarceration. So IFAM did a study where essentially they found that 70% of people typically tend to go back to prison after they have been out because it's hard to find jobs, it's hard to find housing, right? So there's a bunch of these classes and mental health benefits that a lot of these incarcerated people get, but they just don't know they have access to it. So IFAM is trying to help that, and we were asked to build a mobile application for this SIP. The early stages of my project management came in the form of really doing a lot of planning. So I met with Ryan to kind of plan out all of the different APIs we needed, all of the different features, all of the different kind of epics that went into this. And then I had to meet with Ivan, another one, our infrastructure lead, you'll hear from him later, to plan out the entire infrastructure. Then I had to meet with Shams and Brendan to understand how a front-end software lifecycle develops, because I'm not a front-end developer. So I truly appreciate my front-end team for doing what I can't. Then I also had to go to one of my Vanguard coworkers because, again, a sense of fear. And I'm trying to understand how to build a project of this level of production. So a lot of the planning went out early in this project. But we were asked to create an MVP where users can sign up and log in. And then afterwards, they could sign up for these classes that were offered to them. And for every class they attended to, they received a certain amount of points. And let's say you had 2,000 or 3,000 points after attending 6 to 10 classes, cool. You could buy like a $10 Subway gift card. And it's a way of making sure that people keep attending these classes and incentivizing them to do so. Along with this, we were also required to create an admin dashboard, which Shams is actually working on at the moment. But all of this was due over the course of 6 to 9 months. And if it wasn't for my incredible team here at Hack4Impact and all the developers that will present eventually, I seriously could not have done this project. So I appreciate all of you guys for being here and doing this. But I'd like to start with the first team that worked on this project. We can go top to bottom in the tech stack. But I'd like to call up Casey and Chloe to talk about the design. But first, Lola.
So Dream Schools was the first project that kind of established for me what the rest of my responsibilities were as a design director. And I was able to kind of continue on to our second project, which is a partnership with a nonprofit called Indomitable Families Affected by Incarceration. So they sent us PRD so we could look over what the required. So I needed to recruit more designers onto this project. Genuinely, it had a lot of functions that needed to be implemented, and by this point, I just needed more people on my team to help me. I began recruiting more UI UX designers through interviews and seeing who best fitted our team. I was able to interview up to 15 people and recruited around 3. So we were able to have like a larger team of people to look into mobile applications and how that tied into admin look of things, and design something that felt natural to the user, because this is much more than just an application. It is support as well, and the interface needs to reflect that. So we did some look into things, and we were able to establish a design for the developers to work off of, and that is a continuing project currently. I'm sure you'll hear more about later. I wanted to end it off by saying I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there. Good luck to all of my designers presenting, and thank you so much for everybody for being here, and I hope you have a good rest of the showcase. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lola. Now on to Casey.
So, hi everyone, my name is Casey Lee. I'm a 3rd year studying user experience and interaction design with the marketing minor. I was only involved in IFAM, but some of my interests are I like staying active, running, working out, and I'm also a super big foodie here in Philly. So, like I said, I was a UX designer on IFAM, and I was specifically focused on building that desktop admin dashboard. As mentioned before as well, we got this from Cornell's Hack4Impact, and so the designs that they had handed off to us were all out of order. They didn't really have any documentation with it, and so a part of it was organizing these into a logical flow of information. We had that PRD, our requirements document, and so there was many features that were listed for the mobile application, but not so much for the desktop. So kind of matching the metrics that are being tracked on the mobile application to be tracked as an admin. So what kind of data would you want to see, and how can we visualize that data in the best way, in the most intuitive way possible? With that, we help to refine the features within the admin dashboard to match what an admin would want, and also help to enforce accessible design standards, especially if they can't use a dashboard that's made for them, then what's the point? And it taught me a lot about time management. There was a lot of features to be put in. We had to meet and talk about truly how do we figure this out, and how can we make sure that there's not too many features, it's within the scope, and we can really hit that timeline and send that MVP. And just to advocate for clearer context and documentation when you don't know what's happening. And yeah, Hack4Impact excited to learn about more diverse projects. So on this next slide, these are just snapshots of how I organize it. So you can see in the top left corner, on the top, it's just a line of all the designs, and how the bottom part is how I organize it based on the feature and kind of the flows, the logical flow of information. And then, yeah, this is how the dashboard came out. You can see you have total users, you can also track your points and manage your rosters. So I'd like to hand it to Chloe now to talk about the mobile application.
Thank you, Casey. So for me, I was the UX designer primarily for the mobile prototype. Like Casey said, it was a project that was handed off to us. So when I was handed to the project, it looked finished, but if you look deeper into it, there was not really any descriptions for anything. A lot of things that seemed like components were actually like screenshots. It wasn't really consistent. And at the time, we were all in different parts of the world actually. So Lola was packing for Hong Kong. I was trying to communicate to Casey, who was traveling, and I was in Iceland. So I was just like attached to this cubicle hotel Wi-Fi, trying to make sure I got everything pushed out in time. But something important I learned for this project specifically was communication. Because it was handed off to me from like a previous designer we had no contact with, I kind of had to fill in the blanks. So a lot of what I did was clean up and to make sure it kind of looked readjusted and fit the vision that was that I had for it after being given the PRD. And then I ended up revising and trying to suggest what would make it better. So you can go to the next slide. So a lot of the buttons and the colors weren't consistent, so I went back to change it. Of the navigation bar, it didn't seem to be consistent either, so I wanted to make sure that was simplified as well. For the onboarding process, that wasn't consistent either, so I cleaned that up a bit and made sure that it matched up with all the information that they did need to have to start an account. And then like I said earlier, communication is key, so I made sure I put little comments for everything just in case, just to prevent any miscommunication at all. But at the end, I think the main component of my design here was just to revise and clean up a lot of the already made design. So I'd like to pass it to the next team.
Yeah, thank you, design team. These guys had to work in like really tight deadlines, so I really appreciate the work they've done here. Next is the front-end team, who is responsible for the implementation and of the entire front-end application. Brandon?
Hello, everybody. You can see, I'll just spread across here. Yeah, first, well, my name is Brandon Gorski. You heard from me earlier. I'm also one of the IFAM front-end technical leads. And one of the first things I want to ask is a question to all of you. So, if any of you use a phone or computer in your day-to-day life, please raise your hand. Okay, I hope to anticipate most of the room. Now, let's think about this. What are you really doing on your phone? You're probably going into like Instagram to scroll through brain rot, or you're going on like Google to open up Blackboard Learn for classes, right? Everyone has different uses, right? Now, raise your hand if you have ever experienced frustrations or issues with the front-end design, or like the page is cut off, this button doesn't work. Please raise your hands high. So if you look around the room, you can see that everyone clearly has had this problem. And the reason I mention this is because it's very important to build out robust front-ends. And that's why I wanted to have a huge thank you to the design team for building out such a great front-end so far, and the team for putting in so much great work. It's really important to have robust front-ends to avoid things like this and avoid frustrations, especially when we're delivering it to a nonprofit. So kind of going into that, what I've worked on from here is organizing team agendas and sprint milestones. Something I've taken from Vanguard especially is kind of taking out this layout of looking at the project as a whole and seeing what do we need to complete in actionable steps. And then from those actionable steps, kind of turning that into tickets that other developers could use, working with them, kind of collaborating on what we need to actually complete piece by piece in order to build the project. From that, I've had some very valuable lessons, maintaining strong communication. It was very tough this summer. Me and she were both away in California, and the rest of the team was here. So we tried to make our best to make it all work. But it showed me the importance of communication. Additionally, how to say no and be more of a stern leader. I realize I'm a very relaxed kind of leader, and I'm more of an encourager. So this summer was great for me to learn how to be more strong with my leadership. And then going forward, I'm hopeful to take a lot of the lessons we've learned from the summer, create more templates, and apply that to future development cycles. I'll now pass it off to Chi.
Thank you, Brandon. Hello, everyone. I'm back again to talk about my role here as a technical lead on the iFAM front-end team. Just to extend on what Gorski said, I aided him in management of the team, which involved aiding with handling agile sprint meetings, scrum meetings, and more of the technical aspect of implementing the project management. So this involved making the tickets, handling merge requests and pull requests on our GitHub repos, and managing code quality in our repositories. Some things I learned, as Gorski mentioned, we're both in California for work. It was very difficult for us to keep up with the team while they were here, and we learned a lot about communication. I learned a lot about what it means to do project management with a team. And I would like to thank the development team, the front-end team, because this project would not be possible without them. And just to start off, I would like to hand off to Christy to talk about her work.
Hello, my name is Christy Tran. I am in third year at Drexel studying information systems. I worked as a front-end developer for the iFAM project, and I have an interest in all the arts, so things like video games, drawing, ceramics. Okay, so I was in charge of creating the general calendar and enrolling in a classes page. So I spent a lot of my time doing personal research, like learning more about React, Expo, Git, everything about that. And I was able to create all those pages. This is a sample page of the class. It gives you all the information about the workshop. It gives you information about the teacher and the class, how to join it. Another thing that I'm excited to move forward on is connecting the front and back end together. Okay, and then these are some screenshots of some other work I did. This is the class page where you can enroll in the classes. You get to choose the date, choose the time, and then if you click on enroll and send the email, you'll get the email in the class. That is the general calendar page, and it tells you everything about the class. I would like to pass it off to Liz.
Unfortunately, Noel's not here today, so I'll be speaking for her and kind of highlighting what she worked on as well. You can play the GIF here. Noel was a front developer on this project and worked on primarily mocking up Figma designs to React. Here you can see she focused more so on the coupon side of things, so putting out the general list of coupons, the ability to look at your current history of coupons, selecting new ones, redeeming them, going through that entire flow and kind of mimicking that within the application. Some lessons that she's taken away from that is working with the team in an agile workflow, something that we really stress heavily on this project. And she's excited to improve her front-end development skills and learn some back-end skills as we take the progress we've made so far and start integrating the back-end into it. Additionally, on the next page, you can see overall some more of the pages that she's worked on and contributed to the project so far. I will now pass it off to Lizzie.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm second year student at Drexel University studying computer science and mathematics. I was working as front-end developer on iFAM project, and outside of academics, I love watching soccer, listening to music, playing video games, board games, anything. So we used Figma as our main source of design in our iFAM project, and my job was to translate this Figma components into React Native components. And I created edits page and settings page based on that. The most valuable lesson I learned is how to communicate and collaborate with other people. in the future, I really hope to continue learning about front-end developing and then starting to learn about back-end. Now I'm gonna pass it to Elon.
Hi, hi everyone, my name is Elon and I'm a third year here at Drexel. I'm studying computer science, and in my free time I run a blog about music and one about technology. I'm also getting into reading about urban planning and practicing poker so that I can hit the ground running when I turn 21. So, working as a front-end designer on the IFAM project, I mostly transferred some of the Figma wireframe designs into React native TypeScript code so that it could be part of the app. And the biggest takeaway from this experience for me was the scale of the project, because when working on more like solo pet projects, I haven't had the liberty or like the privilege of having these already designed wireframes and user experience flows. So that was cool to see what it would be like to work on a more enterprise scale application. And moving forward, I'm excited to see what the app will look like once we've got more animations and dynamic features implemented. Yeah, get over to the front end team. Next, I'd like to introduce the backend team, who is responsible for the implementation of APIs. Our tech lead, Brian Ling.
Thanks. Thank you, Mahi. Hello again, everyone. As you already know, my name is Ryan. On top of being the engineering chair and team lead for VRL, I was also tasked to be the backend team lead for IFAM under Hack4Impact. And so when I was first approached to take on this position by Mahi, as he said, we ran through the potential backend design for APIs as well as a database and really got the scale of what was needed for this enterprise level project. And while discussing it with him, due to the nature of IFAM, they don't have many technical people and on-prem servers. And so something that we immediately recognized was we needed a serverless architecture. And it just so happened that I had a majority of my experience working with serverless architecture with AWS at Vanguard. And so my co-op at Vanguard is directly influenced how we approach the backend here for IFAM and how we design these API gateways using Lambdas. But enough about what we discussed about there. The purpose of me leading the IFAM backend team was to design APIs as well as design what databases were needed to get the necessary data to flow into the front end. And so even though I myself had this knowledge, I would have never been able to have done this project solo. And so through recruitment and meeting all new developers, I'm so grateful to have my wonderful backend team here with me to help develop this project. And so I can't wait to showcase the work that they've done over these past couple of months in the summer quarter. But just a quick overview of what I did as backend team lead. I simply created and organized Jira tickets for who was doing what and delegated them. And another crucial thing was leading team discussions on what design decisions to make for our software. I think that was the biggest takeaway I had was as a team lead. I often usually think about these kind of decisions on my own, but when working with many people, it's important to be on the same page. And so with differing opinions, it led me to ask many questions, gauging what each person thought. And I'm super grateful for the engagement I got from the developers. And last but not least, I was also helping with the tech leads to integrate and create a timeline for the back end and the front end. But yeah, enough about me. I would love to start introducing the back end team, starting with Jessica.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Tran and I'm a sophomore studying computer science. I'm currently doing my first co-op at Lockheed Martin as a software engineer. And in my free time, I like to read, mainly fiction, and I like to go thrifting. So on the back-end team, I help set up the API GET endpoint that gets basic information about all classes. This feature also allows the users to sort classes based on the past classes that already happened and the upcoming existing classes that they can currently sign up for. This feature just gives the user a good overview of their possible options. And this project was
the first time I worked on a team this big, and I quickly learned how important communication is, whether it's discussing the format of your code or like what features you think should be implemented. It's really important to just be on the same page as your team. And as well as this being the first time I worked on a team this big, it was also the first time I was exposed to some tech like AWS. My classes can only teach me so much, so I'm grateful for this opportunity to learn more about AWS and also just advance my technical skills in general. Now I'd like to pass it off to Eddie.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. My name is Eddie Suber. I am currently a third-year computer science major, and as part of the IFAM project, I worked on the back-end team. I have done my first co-op at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm currently doing my second co-op at Penn Mutual, doing software engineering. And for a little bit about me, I enjoy reading, playing video games, and I love playing the piano. So as a backend developer, my main responsibilities have been creating API endpoints. Specifically, the main one I worked on was an API endpoint to update and edit the details of the different classes that are available in the IFAM Connect app. And this is important because the service providers often, they may need to reschedule or they may need to change the details. So being able to update that information in the app ensures that the users will have access to that accurate information. And beyond that, I designed and implemented the database that we actually store all of the classes in, so that will be able to be accessed in the app to show all the available courses that users can register for. And I would say my two most valuable lessons that I've taken away from working on the project so far were to ask questions and take initiative. These two, I would say, form the cornerstone of having clear and open communication on a team, especially working with a larger team. It's important that we're able to discuss details such as what the database should look like and how this endpoint should be, what kind of payload we should be sending, all that. And moving forward, I guess for the project, I'm excited to get to connect the front end with the back end. I'm excited to see what that will look like, and as we move closer to the MVP. And then beyond that, moving forward, I hope to, continue working in software development. I'm having a good time with that at my current co-op, and just keep making products that directly impact people. So I'll be passing it to our next developer, Anya.
Hi everyone, my name is Anya Patel and I'm a sophomore here at Drexel majoring in computer science. I'm currently working at my first co-op at Intel as a full stack developer in Marin plus UX and AI. A little bit about me aside from academics is that I love to read and I am the biggest tennis and pickleball enthusiast. But over the past few months working in Hack4Impact, I worked as a backend developer on the IFAM project. And so one of my main contributions was building the delete endpoint for class Lambda. And so this endpoint basically makes it possible to remove or delete any classes from the master class register. And in addition to this, I also implemented checks and safeguards to make sure that if you're editing one part of the code, it doesn't really affect any of the other parts. So looking back at my experience on this project, one of my most valuable lessons I learned was just really how important database integrity is, especially when working in a really big project like this one. And so moving forward, I will be designing a schema which links users to rewards. And now I'll hand it to the next developer, Kimmy.
All right, hi. My name is Kimmy, but before I tell more about myself or the things that I've done, we've been sitting here for quite a long time, so I'm just gonna tell you guys a joke as a refresher. So, what do you call an optimistic backend developer? Anyone? Okay. A stack half full developer. Yeah. By the way, I got that from GitHub. There's literally every repo on GitHub, even for dad jokes about programming. Amazing. All right, so back to me. So I'm a third year and studying computer science like most of my teammates here. And I am currently, yes, a backend developer, so I made the backend jokes. And my interests include photography, and I'm also in charge of bringing photographers to take pictures of this event, and a bit of films and music. All right, so moving on to what I did. Well, I've been sitting here for quite a long time, like all of you, and seeing the senior projects of all the e-boards, it makes me feel like my work is kind of trivial, because like they do system design as architect, and I just get stuff, because that's really what I did. I go get endpoints. But like my jokes, I am an optimistic backend developer, and I am optimistic about all the things that I've learned, all the things that I did, and all the things that will bring in the impact for the nonprofits. So what I've learned so far is CI/CD. I've encountered my first lint when pushed to GitHub here. I thought like, why? I didn't put my code into, the dryer. Why is there lint? But now I know what it is. And I also got my first exposure to AWS. It mind blew me so hard that I even got certified within 3 weeks, because I was that eager to, be involved. And what I look forward is that, like everybody, I want to see how this roll out. I want to see how this connect with the front end, and I also want to learn more about AWS and system design. Enough about me. I'm going to pass it off to Zach.
Thank you, Kimmy. I apologize, everyone. I don't have a joke. I'm not as fun. But my name is Zach Oldweiler. I am a third-year computer science student with focuses on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then finance. You'll notice a trend with that one. I have a problem. So my interests are, I am a longtime skier, an amateur runner, and a stock market enthusiast. That leads into some of my co-op experiences. Calm down. So, I've done 2, both of which have been at Susquehanna. The first one being on their SFG team, working on order management systems. The second and current one is I am working with the EdTech team, working on trading simulations and class management. All of that has taught me many valuable skills, which I've used as a backend developer on the IFAM project. To tell you a little bit more about what I've done, like all of my fellow developers, I've worked across our entire backend, initially starting with creating endpoints to create classes, then following up with endpoints allowing users to register for those classes, getting all those tables set up, and ensuring we have all the data required. And then more recently, I have built the database to handle transactions. So any point-based transaction, every time someone attends their class, then they get points, and then go ahead and purchase many fun rewards. All of that has to be organized and managed, so there's no point discrepancy and everybody gets everything they have worked for. Part of the project, one of the big things I've learned is the importance of taking initiative and communicating. That has been touched on a lot here, but it's needlessly important to say. Even with a very dedicated team, we are working remote most of the time. We all have our own lives going on. I'm on co-op. Many of my fellow developers are on co-op or in classes. So taking that initiative to communicate and express your ideas is immensely important. And in the future, I hope to keep working in fintech and start combining my machine learning and financial knowledge. But anyway, that is enough from me. Time to pass it on to our final backend developer, Ashni.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ashni Kumar. I'm a sophomore majoring in data science here at Drexel. I'm currently on my first co-op as a fintech data analyst at Hamilton Lane. My interests include playing chess, hiking, and learning Francais. On the backend team for IFAM, I created the database schema for the users database. So this was important for user management across our app. I also created an API endpoint to retrieve details about a class. So if a user is interested in attending a class, they would want to know specific details like the class description and the class location. And we actually had multiple get endpoints for the classes based on different needs throughout the app. So I collaborated with my team to handle the logic for those different get endpoints. And this leads me to my major takeaway from this project,
which is the importance of understanding the user's needs, because this informs every decision across the project. And moving forward, I look forward to continuing to implement the logic for the rewards transactions so that users can get those coupons, gift cards, whatever it is. And of course, I look forward to continuing to collaborate with my team. Thank you.
Oh yeah, going into faculty. I feel bad for these guys because these guys have 9 a.m. Saturday scrums, which is, I could not imagine, but thank you guys for your work. The final and last team on this project is the infrastructure team led by Ivan Matthews. He's responsible for implementing and maintaining all of the AWS infrastructure. Ivan?
Thank you, Mahi. First of all, before I introduce myself, I want to thank you all for being here. This is a result of all our hard work, and thank you for being here for us to, when we're presenting on our projects. Now about me. As Mahi introduced me, my name is Ivan Matthew. I'm a computer science major. I'm a junior. I currently work at Susquehanna as part-time as a security engineer. I co-op there last time and now I'm in classes. My interests include traveling. Any free time I try to hit up a scenic route and it gives me relaxation. It's really beautiful. Recommend to everybody. And I also like to play badminton. So now, moving into the project. I served as the infrastructure lead for this project. Our infrastructure is predominantly in AWS. So, as Mahi said, this is an enterprise level app. And when I was approached for this project, I had all these knowledge about all AWS services. I had an account. I was so scared of a current cost. So I would implement it, I had a zero budget, and then I would play around with it, but that was it. But this project helped me rethink my design skills and how to implement a project in AWS. And I want to go over some key features I had in mind when I was implementing this project. First, I wanted it to be cost effective as possible because this is for a nonprofit. I don't want our nonprofit partner to have a hefty AWS bill to pay for using this app. Two, I wanted it to be scalable, as Dr. DeBerry said. After we finish our MVP and add more features, it should be easy to add more and more features to be supported. So we have like lambdas, we have different functions which we implemented where features could be tacked on top of it. And last but not the least, because I'm a security engineer, security. I did not want our partners to be affected by a security breach because it's confidential information of all the users. So nobody could get into the environment, it's locked down. And our architecture is serverless. The only server we have is RDS. And that's where all our information is stored. And it's very modular, as I mentioned, with lambdas. And I worked with the backend team, and Lazar's will call it Ryan, to get this because their code is going to be working on my system, and my system has to work with them, and their system has to work with me. So, how this project helped me, as I mentioned before, is a lot of hands-on experience, just drawing up the design and then actually going and implementing AWS. And AWS, if you know about it, has a lot of services, and they come up with a lot of services every year. So just picking the right solutions for this one and keeping it as cost-effective as possible. This helped me learn more about AWS. And also helped me, I had my wonderful team here. This gives me a right segue to introduce them. I was very fortunate enough to have this team and work with them. We had countless amount of discussions on which services to use with very tight deadlines, and I'm so glad because it's such a small team. And I'm happy, and I'm going to pass it on to Ujjwal for his presentation. That is our infrastructure, by the way, guys, if you want to look at it.
Thank you, Ivan, for the wonderful introduction. So, hello everyone, my name is Ujjwal and I'm a senior here at Drexel studying computer science. Previously, I've done my co-ops at Penn Mutual and Exelon Corporation. And in my free time, I like listening to music, running as you can see, sometimes hiking as well. So talking about my involvement in the project, I helped in infrastructure and cloud setup alongside my two lovely teammates. I was setting up lambdas so that we could run specific pieces of code when we wanted to trigger certain events or, for example, class being booked or points being added. This helped us in managing the workflows without worrying about server crashes or loads, I'd say. And I also leveraged AWS Secret Manager for storing our project's credentials for encryption and security purposes. So when we were making cloud, our infrastructure, our main goal was to build a foundation that was not only functional, but something that was also scalable and also robust, so that when more users were added to the application, it could run smoothly and seamlessly. Looking forward, I would like to explore cloud technology more deeply, not just AWS, but other platforms such as Azure and GCP. And I'd like to thank Hack4Impact Drexel for providing me with this opportunity to work in a collaborative project with peers of mine. And I think that I'm glad to guide the lessons that I've learned while working on the project in future as well. Thank you, and now I'll give a hand over to my teammate Tio.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dior White. I'm a third year studying computing and security technology. I'm currently right now an IT consultant for security risk advisors for the Blue Team, where I basically conduct cloud security and configuration assessments. I look through compliance and strategy assessments, and I also do cyber resilience for our clients. Before Hack4Impact, I was working with Susquehanna International Group as a security engineer, where I was looking at alerts where it was triggered by suspicious behavior in our network. And so I would investigate each alert and I would determine if it was a false positive or if it was an actual threat, and then take steps from there. And so because of my background, I only knew security defense from a monitoring standpoint before I joined Hack4Impact. I knew absolutely nothing about cloud security besides the fact that I know how to watch it and make sure no one is trying to hack into it. And when I joined Hack4Impact, they had already slightly established our foundational infrastructure. And because I knew absolutely nothing about cloud, about AWS, I had a support standpoint. And so what I would do is I would research all of the AWS services that were possible. I would determine if these services were good for us or if they were going to be too expensive or we could just not use them at all. I would look through the configurations that we had already done to make sure that no one had excessive permissions or access, make sure that everything was created perfectly well. And I also just made sure that we weren't trying to take too much cost. And AWS has an amazing calculator where you can order everything and it'll tell you how much it'll cost. And so I was making sure we were at a very good standpoint from there. And then once I got more comfortable in the AWS sphere, I actually started to work on our communication services, which is SNS and SES. Now, SNS is simple notification service, and SES is our simple email service. And basically what that means is when you open an application, you're gonna see, when you log in, it's gonna say, do you have an access code? The access code is gonna get sent to your email or a mobile application. That is me. And so these notifications, basically, you will see are going to be just information that you need. And with our application, because it's to be bettering people's health and also trying to help them integrate back into society, it's based on user actions. And so you'll get a notification if you attend a class, where actually you see here, if you attend a class, if you have rewards, if you want to redeem a reward, if there are new classes that are going to be available for you, etc. Just information that the user needs, information that they're going to want to use, and it also helps us keep track of just the data in our database and make sure that everything is going correctly, if there are any errors, etc. And they can also use complaints in different types of ways to actually send it back to us. Now, one of the greatest things I have learned from doing this project is that AWS documentation is just absolutely amazing. I know this is a very computer science heavy room, so many of you probably have not struggled with this, but as a security person, you are going to be sitting at your desk one day and you're going to have a vulnerability that Microsoft has detected. They have told you you have a vulnerability. It is a vulnerability from Microsoft, and you go to Microsoft and you look up the vulnerability, and the only thing you're going to see on that page is that there is no documentation at all. And so now you don't know what the vulnerability is, you don't know what's going on, you don't know, you have to look everywhere else but Microsoft. And because of that, my immediate instinct when I'm researching something is to go anywhere else but the platform that I'm supposed to be looking on. But AWS has the best documentation I have ever had the pleasure of reading. It will give you a step-by-step on how to add the service, what the service is, what choices you can make, how much it's going to cost. Like, it gives you every single detail that you will need. And so that was just amazing to work with. And I think moving forward, I would really want to work more with our Cognito user pools and authentication, where it was mostly with like the infrastructure. I've never built an infrastructure, and I still technically haven't. I was mainly just like supporting on a standpoint. And so for another project or just in general, I would really like to actually build it, especially since I'm doing very similar things at my current job where I'm looking at configurations in different cloud environments. I think it would help me understand a lot more how cloud works as a whole, especially since AWS and Azure and cloud security is just taking off right now. And so I can't thank Hack4Impact enough for this, because they definitely got me my job, but also because it'll really help me just better my career for security and everywhere else. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And with that, that's the last of the projects. I'd like to hand it off to our president for closing remarks.
Thank you all for coming to this event. I know it's very long and we've definitely went over schedule, but thanks for sticking along to the end. Now, we finished DCCI, we finished Dream School, and we're on the project to finish IFEM soon enough. Now the question rises, what's the next project coming up? Our upcoming project, we're partnering up with Dorn's Life Center for Neighborhood Partnership. So what are we going to be building? This is a project that was given to me by Dr. Youngmoo Kim, and we will be going forward with this project starting from middle of fall to the end of winter. In 2026, Dorn's Life will be opening their 38,000 square foot facility where they will be serving thousands of community partners in West Philadelphia. And the problem is many of the community partners do not have a Drexel ID to easily check in or sign in. There goes a lot of hassle signing into different facilities that's owned by Drexel, and what we're going to be building is a simple, scalable sign-in system where through a very simple front end with one tap QR code based system that is connected to via APIs into the CRM, Salesforce CRM, we'll be able to log in and get into the system. What we'll be providing is a mobile-friendly web registration, and staff be able to scan in and see different scan-ins through admin dashboard. The impact be faster, and we'll be able to do data management cleaner, and we'll be able to serve thousands of citizens within West Philadelphia and making impact within our community in Drexel. Now I'll be handing the mic over to Nitya. So what's the next event and how to get involved, how you can be part of the Hack4Impact and do a lot of the work that a lot of the developers and designers are doing.
Thank you, Shams, and we are very excited for our next project. And before that, if you want to learn how to code or just hang out with us, because why not? We have our Learn to Code React workshop on October 29th from 6 to 8 at 1104 CCI building. And we have more information for recruitment and developers and designers application. And I'll be handing it back to Mahi for the thank yous.
Thank you all for sitting through this event. I know it was long and everything, but I hope it was a little more fruitful than when you walked in. But I want to start by thanking the professors that are here. If it wasn't for your instruction, we would not be here today. Thank you, Professor Golichanas, for being involved from the beginning. I know you said, you don't think you've committed much, but nevertheless, your commitment is appreciated. Thank you to our corporate partners that are here today. My team that attended from JP Morgan, Ria's team that attended from International Blue Cross. Timothy, thank you for coming today. Thank you for being the Vanguard representative. Thank you to Dave Reichen and CCI. Without his help, he really helped us in a lot of the marketing, communications of this event, getting us the money to sponsor this event and make this possible. And yeah, thank you all for coming. And with that, I'd like to close out Hack4Impact's Drexel's first project showcase. If you are interested in joining, you can scan the designer and developer form. But thank you.